Let's do one more topic. And this is really kind of an off the top, but it was big enough that I wanted to put it near the end of the show regardless. You guys know that one of the big issues surrounding Marvel and the MCU lately has been, what are they going to do with Deadpool? Well, we know they're going to do Deadpool. Is he going to be in the MCU? Is he not? Is he going to be rated R? Is he not? We started to get signals and indications that they were going to make it rated R. And that brings up the question, then will it be in the MCU or will it not? We go back a little over a year ago to Bob Iger talking about and heavily implying that, yeah, we can do R-rated material, but we're going to have to handle it in a certain way to differentiate it from this. And he really implied that they may very well keep Deadpool in his own separate universe. Again, we've always said Bob Iger can change his mind, and it looks like his mind has been changed because it's now official. Kevin Feige has confirmed that Deadpool 3 will be rated R and will indeed be in the MCU. There might be some interpretation there. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's go over and see what Kevin Feige actually said. He said the following. Speaking about Deadpool 3, he said it will be rated R, and we are working on a script right now, and Ryan, that's Ryan Reynolds, is overseeing a script right now. It will not be filming this year. Ryan is a very busy, very successful actor. We've got a number of things that we've already announced that we now have to make, but it's exciting for it to have begun. Again, a very different type of character in the MCU. And Ryan is a force of nature, which is just awesome to see him bring that character to life. All right. We always say, guys, it's not official until somebody from the studio actually says it. Well, we've now got Kevin Feige himself confirming and affirming that Deadpool 3, number one, we already knew it was happening, but it is happening, number one. It's going to be rated R, and he at least seems to imply that it's going to be in the MCU. Now, let me address this first so we can get it out of the way. There could theoretically be a way of looking at Kevin Feige's comments there and maybe saying he's just generally referencing the world of Marvel. He didn't actually come out and say specifically Deadpool 3 will be set in the MCU as an R-rated property. There could be a way of looking at that. There could be a way of looking at that. Again, though, I go back to it when we look at the specific wording. It does says, again, a very different type of character in the MCU. So I think at this point, we can interpret Kevin Feige's words as saying that it will be in the MCU. And we'll leave it up to Kevin Feige to correct that later if he so chooses. But because of the wording for now, I'll take it literally that it's saying it's in the MCU. If he needs to correct that and say, no, I just meant in Marvel, not necessarily in the MCU proper, we'll let him correct that later. For now, let's go on the assumption that he means in the MCU. Rob, this represents a change of course than what Bob Iger implied they would be doing a little over a year ago. Now, granted, you and I both said, Rob, like a year and a half ago, whatever, we both said, we don't think they actually know what they're going to do with Deadpool yet. We've been saying this for a long time, that we didn't think that they had made an actual decision yet, that they hadn't made up their final mind about what they're going to do with it. And that while I believe, listen, I'll be straight up front, I believed that they would do one of two things. That they would make him PG-13 and in the MCU. That's what, again, that's what kind of Bob Iger did. Or they'll make him R and treat him like Fox treated him. Yeah, it's sort of connected, but he's really in his own universe, really. So I thought they'd do one of those two things, but they kept their options open. Bob Iger, obviously with Alan Horn, obviously with Kevin Feige, obviously with Ryan Reynolds, have probably continued to debate and discuss the merits of how they're going to approach it. And it seems like they've got a change of heart. It seems like they've changed their mind from a year ago, which is something that can happen here. And we're seeing this. And it seems like it's going to be rated R in the MCU. Going back to Bob Iger's original concerns, I don't know how they're going to navigate this. And now, first, for me as a fan, I love it. I can't wait to see Deadpool doing his thing and, flipping off and cussing out Spider-Man or whoever it is. He's going to talk about, certain maybe sexual improprieties on behalf of Tony Stark. And I don't know what he's going to do. But it is going to be problematic about how do you tell audiences that and parents that, yeah, this Deadpool character that we've got in this larger team up movie that is PG and PG-13. And then 6 months later, we're putting out a standalone Deadpool movie and little Bobby sees, oh, that's Deadpool from the Avengers movie I just saw. And now he wants to go talking about that. And they're talking about ass to mouth and they're talking about everything else that I'm sure Deadpool is probably going to incorporate into it. That's going to be an interesting way to see how they navigate that. Maybe that's something that Ryan Reynolds is working on right now. So I'll tell you what, Rob, we always knew this was a possibility, but I'll be honest, I'm a bit surprised by this. I thought they would go in another direction. I don't know how they're going to manage this, but obviously Kevin Feige is a forward thinker. He doesn't just announce things and think, I'll figure it out later. They've clearly got a philosophy and a strategy for how to do this. Now we just got to see how it turns out. Rob, let me ask you. Number one, do you think this is the right decision for them to be R and in the MCU? Could this lay out a blueprint for future MCU things? A lot of people wondering, is Blade going to be rated R? Does this open a door? Does Deadpool being rated R open a door for a Ghost Rider, a revitalized, rebooted Ghost Rider rated R to come into it? How will they make these things intermingle, yet show a clear distinction line so it doesn't confuse parents or families who Bob Iger is very concerned about? But what are your thoughts on this in general? What do you think?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to say about this, and there's a lot I don't know. But look, I like the idea. I think now that they're embracing the idea of the multiverse over at the MCU, anything's possible. And, you know, maybe Deadpool gets pulled out of one. I mean, John, the idea of the jokes that could be made going from the X-Men universe into the MCU universe that Deadpool can make, the possibilities of that are endless. And I just think it's, I just am thinking about the idea, what Ryan Reynolds would possibly say makes me just chuckle. And the fact that he looks around, one, there's no mutants yet. And two, like, nobody knows who the X-Men are. And he looks around like, who are these chumps? Captain America? Are you kidding me? What is this? The Hulk? Who are these people? You know, I mean, it could be really very funny. And I think that it's a good idea. Look, how they're going to caress it all into with families and the rest of the MCU, I don't know. But you know what? The world understands. The audience of Deadpool is the audience for the MCU. They get it. They understand. And, you know, Deadpool didn't make $750 million twice times two for nothing. And I think they can now understand that the audience for Deadpool and the audience for the MCU, they'll get it. They'll come along with us on this journey. So I'm excited. I think they're embracing what they should have embraced from the beginning. I think they're loosening up a little bit. WandaVision, it's going to be really interesting to see. You know, I don't know if you read that article about WandaVision, but they said that even in the WandaVision show, there are commercials. TV commercials.
Oh, I had heard that. No.
I don't know if they're in universe or how they're going to do it, but the commercials are about like Hydra. And I'm like, I'm so in. I'm so in about this. So I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like, look, man, we already proved ourselves with the Infinity Saga, 23 movies, average box office $1 billion a piece. So it's this new out of the box thinking where anything goes. And that's what's going to make the Marvel Cinematic Universe viable moving into the next decade. So I can't wait. I think they're going to, I can only imagine the jokes. And don't you think every Marvel Universe star would clamor to do a little bit in Deadpool? Just because I'm sure Ryan Reynolds is friends with everybody. I'm sure he could just call up and go, hey, would you come in and do this? I'm sure they'd be like, yes, Ryan. Yes, I would. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. It's going to be hilarious.
Here's the potential problem, though. You bring up a very valid fact when you say that people who are into Deadpool and who are Deadpool's audiences, they're going to get it. They're going to understand this is going to be a problem. I don't think those are the people Bob Iger was ever worried about. It's the Marvel and Disney and whatever fans and families who aren't into Deadpool and aren't Deadpool's audience. Those are the ones that I think not Feige, but Iger was at least worried about. They're the ones that are going to be the potential problem. Obviously, people like you and me who are totally into Deadpool and the way he is portrayed by Ryan Reynolds will get it. To us, it's not a problem. But I don't know, maybe to Jesse and Barbara, who've got 2 little kids and they sit down and watch Marvel movies with them. I mean, this is the part that's going to be interesting to see how they manage it. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But again, guys, this is going to be very exciting news to a lot of people. Kevin Feige himself has said, number 1, can't be misunderstood. Deadpool is going to be rated R. So there we go. And Ryan Reynolds is at the helm right now. Number 2, he at least seems to be implying that it's going to be in the MCU. Now, one other part that we should look at here, just before we skip off this issue, is again, he's just kind of saying here that this is not going to be shot this year. All right. He's overseeing a script right now. It will not be filming this year. Notice he doesn't even say it'll be filming in 2022. Ryan is very busy. He's successful. He's got a lot going on. They're just in the process of making this. So this theoretically, Rob, could be a movie that we don't see until 2024, 2025, depending on what the plan is right now. Your best guess, knowing that cameras at minimum won't be rolling in 2021, when's your best guess that we might actually see this film on screens?
I would say 2023.
You're gonna go real conservative on that and say it's, or aggressive.
Yeah.
Say 2023.
Yeah, because these films are, I think, they're not like, they don't have as long a production time, or at least they haven't. And if they kind of keep the productions managed the way they did with, especially the first Deadpool, I think we could see it sooner rather than later. I'd say 2023.
I'm going to go
late 2023.
I'm going to go 2024. I don't think it'll be as long as 2025. I think it'll be 2024. I think Ryan Reynolds' dance card is probably, I'm going to guess, is probably filled up through this year, maybe even part of next, but we'll see how it goes. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? Are you excited about this news? Are you a little bit apprehensive? Do you wonder how they're going to make this work? Do you think it's not going to be a problem? When do you think we're going to finally see Deadpool 3? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all of our